Okay, quick tool tip video. Today we're going to look at spoke shaves. Let's jump in and do it. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the workshop. Now I have another quick tool tip video for you today, and these little videos is where I answer one of your questions directly and try and help one of you guys out. So today's question comes in from Jim Foy, and Jim commented on the three-legged stool video here, and Jim said, nice little project, John. Could you do me a favor and show how to set up a lubing spoke shave? I'm damned if I can get mine to work properly, not holding them out right. Cheers and regards, Jim. Well, no problem, Jim. I've just got myself a set of these Quangseng lubing spoke shaves, very similar to the Line Nielsen one, and I'll give you a quick video on just how to set these up. So without further ado, let's just crack on and do it. Okay, so very quickly, a brief description on what is a spoke shave. Well, essentially a spoke shave is just a tool for taking a shaving exactly like your bench plane, and it works on the exact same principle as your bench plane. So most of the components that are in this are in your spoke shave. So we have a bevel down blade that protrudes through a sole, and that sole is what we reference on our material. We have a way of clamping the blade, we have a way of adjusting the blade both in and out, left and right or square to the sole, so we can favor one side over the other. And there's just basically a small little bench plane that we can do detailed work with, such as edge work and both concave and convex curves. Now, the most common types you will come across is the flat sole spoke shave and the curved bottom spoke shave. Now, you can do just about everything with the flat bottom spoke shave, including convex and concave curves. But where this kind of falls down is when the radius starts to get too tight on the concave curve. That flat bottom sole will reference across the radius, and you have to extend that blade out a long way in order for it to make contact with the material. That's where the curved sole comes in, and that just allows you to get down into that concave curve a bit better. But 90% of the time, a flat bottom sole or a flat bottomed sole spoke shave will be what you need. Now, there's a couple of adjustments on these, a couple of different types, just like the bench planes. They have different ways of adjusting them. These ones literally just clamp the blade in place and use a small hammer to adjust it for the depth of cut and square to the sole. Some of them have adjusters where you can adjust it up and down. They'll have adjuster either side, again, for squaring that blade. But that's essentially what a spoke shave is. Now, let's just get in and very quickly set one of these up and get cutting with it. Okay, so let's begin to address Jim's question. Now, he's having a bit of a problem setting this up and get it to take a good shaving. Well, they're not too difficult to set up, it's just a little bit of practice. Now, just like my bench plane, this is how I do it. I'll show you two ways doing it, how I do it, and another way that's kind of foolproof. I just protrude the blade out through the sole just so I can barely see it. Just check for squareness. I'm sighting down along it and looking against the light background, and I just adjust that adjustment lever so that my blade is square. Well, I do the exact same thing with my spoke shave, with these type ones. Now, they can be a little bit finicky because they don't have the screw type adjusters that lock the blade in place. So once you loosen the clamp, that blade really begins to move around. So again, it's just a case of I sight down along the sole, just like that. Now, it's a fairly short sole, so it can be a little tricky, especially if your old mince pies aren't working too well. You can find it a little tricky, but I just let it protrude, get it squared, clamp it down, and I find that to be good enough. That works for me. Now, if you're having issues with that, not to worry, just get a piece of stock and get it flat, and I'll show you how it's set up. So this is just a little bit of 4x2 or 2x4. Get that in there. I'm just going to prepare one side of this. Just like that, that's good enough. Now I take my flat bottomed spoke shave, loosen up the clamps, make sure that my sole is resting on that, so the entirety of my sole is sitting nice and true on that flat surface. Drop my blade in place, so just let the blade just touch, just make sure it's touching all the way along that blade, that it's just sitting on the material. Again, keeping your sole nice and flat against the wood. Tighten down your clamp, and then we can take a shaving. So, just like that. Let's see what we're doing. So, I can see that I'm favoring the left side here now. Now, you might want to keep it that way. I'll explain why in a minute. But if, Jim, you're trying to set this up so it's cutting square, it's on your case to get a little hammer, tap the right side, and now I'm taking a shaving right in the middle with this spoke shave. So, it is literally as simple as that to set it up. Now, like I said, you can favor one side over the other. So if I tap a little bit more on the right side, I'm now taking a much heavier cut
on the right side. You can probably hear that. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, if I'm working on the edge, if I'm putting a chamfer in the edge of this piece of timber, then I can take a heavier cut on the right side of my blade, and I can begin to move then into the middle of my spoke shave, and all the way over to my left side, I'm taking a nice fine finishing cut. So heavy cut to remove a lot of material for my chamfer. Move across my blade, and I'm moving then down towards a nice, very fine finishing cut, which leaves a really smooth surface that you would not even touch with a piece of sandpaper. So that's it. That's how you set these things up to get them taking a shaving. Now, the curved bottom one is slightly different. Again, not too different. So again, it's just the same principle. You want to get this sitting. Now, you obviously have a round sole that you're rocking on, so what you do is you push down to the front of the sole. That's where you reference your depth of cut for. So I'm putting all my pressure just to the front of the mouth of the sole, dropping the blade in place again and tightening that down, and run through that procedure again. And whether you want to favor the left side, the right side, or you want a good center cut, it's just adjust it with a hammer. Now, that's basically how you set these guys up and get them cutting. Let's look at sharpening the blade, because I can guarantee you 99.9% of the time, if you're having problems with either your bench plane, your spoke shaves, or anything that takes a shaving, it's getting the bloody thing sharp. So let's do that now. Okay, so let's get this blade sharp. Now, if we haven't a sharp blade in woodworking, we're just at absolutely nothing. And every single tool you will buy, you will have to pay some attention to the blade. No matter what manufacturer you get it from, you will have to prepare this blade. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this very, very quickly. I have a full video on how I sharpen all my blades. If you guys want to check that out, I'll leave it in the link description below. But essentially, we have to prepare these blades. Now, luckily enough, I have not prepared the blade in my round bottom one, but I have in my flat bottomed blade. Now, these blades are exactly the same. So let me just show you the difference between a blade that you get out of the box and what a prepared blade looks like. And then I'll give you some quick tips on hand sharpening, because they're quite small blades, and the only way to do it is to really hand sharpen, in my opinion. And it's a very, very good skill to develop in woodworking anyway. If you can hand sharpen your blades, it's so much quicker. So let me just get you in for a close-up, and I'll show you the difference in these blades. Okay guys, so here is the back of both our blades. Now, this is the prepared blade, and this is the brand new blade out of the box. Now, you can see the slight difference. So you have to prepare the back of the blade so that it's completely flat right behind the cutting edge, edge to edge. And you can see that this blade is slightly concave, so it's not perfectly flat back here. So you can see I'm removing more material here than I am over here and from the middle, but I have a polished edge to edge behind my cutting edge, and that's very important. So that's the blade out of the box, and that's the blade with the back of it prepared. Now, if I flip these around and the camera plays ball with me, you should still be able to see the difference there. So I have a secondary bevel set on this. You can see that shiny edge there. So again, that's done with hand sharpening. So that's the secondary bevel, and that's the razor sharp edge that I've put on this. So let's do that to this blade now very quickly. Okay, so let's get preparing the blade now. Like I said, the first thing we need to do is prepare the back of it so that we know that we're perfectly flat, edge to edge behind our cutting surface. Now, I'm using the Scary Sharp sharpening system from Workshop Heaven. It's essentially a piece of float glass with 3M micro finishing film, all different grits taped to it, and I think this is fantastic. It does the job for me, and you get a really honed and polished edge from it, and they last a long time. Now, again, I have a full video on this, so I'm not going to get into it. Let's just get sharpening this blade, and I'll show you how I'm doing it. Okay, so here's a close-up of my setup. Now, I have a piece of masking tape across the end of it, and I'll explain what that's for. So if you ever heard of the Charlesworth ruler trick, I'll show you what that is now as well. So if you haven't got this system, maybe you have a diamond stone or something like this. The Charlesworth, or David Charlesworth, he's a very famous woodworker, and he uses a very skinny steel ruler just like this right at the edge of the stone for sharpening, and that will tilt your blade up just enough when you're polishing the back of it, so that you're only polishing right behind the blade. You do not need to polish the whole back of this. It's just a waste of time. You just prepare the edge behind it. Now, if you have this set up, I'm going to use Matthew from Workshop Heaven's trick, and he just uses a piece of masking tape, and that is literally just enough to tilt the blade up. So I'm going to work my way through the grits. I have some hone right, get that on it. Now again, I don't intend on this to be a sharpening video, it's meant to be a quick tip video. So I'm going to work my way down through the grits. I have my blade just sitting in about centimeter 10 mil into my microfinishing film. It's sitting on the masking tape, and that's just enough so that I'm only working the edge of that. I'm just going to work it side to side. Now it's not as efficient because I'm not running down the full length of my tape. I'm only using the width of it rather than the length of it, but that's okay. This stuff removes material in a hurry. So I'm going to work my way down through the grits, and I'm going to prepare the back of this blade until it's flat edge to edge. I'll get on to that, and then we'll jump back in and sharpen it. Okay guys, so very quickly, there's the back of that blade now. You can see it's all prepared edge to edge, and you have to get from edge to edge behind the cutting edge. And you're going to have to do this no matter what you buy. Hand plane, spoke shave, whatever, you got to prepare the back of the blade. So that's that done. Let's put a cutting edge on this. Okay, so now that the back of the blade is prepared, I got to put my secondary bevel on this. Now I've watched a couple of other woodworkers, how they do it. Again, because these blades are so short, they're hard to get them into honing guides. So hand sharpening is definitely the best way to do this. Now, a lot of guys will recommend that you sharpen that entire bevel because it's easier to hold it on that bevel. It's such a small blade, but if you do that, then it's a lot more work. It's easier to set up a secondary bevel because you're only ever sharpening that small little secondary bevel every single time. And it's really not that hard. Just get the blade nice and stable in your hand. You want 3 points of contact or even pressure all the way across the front of the blade as best you can get it. Sit it on its primary bevel, so it's sitting nice and solid on the primary bevel there. I'm just going to tilt up a few degrees. I'm going to support my hand with the blade in it with my other hand. I'm just going to move in circular motions just like this. So I've literally tilted it up a few degrees, and I'm going to work the tip of that blade. And I'm going to work it until I find a burr all the way across the back of that blade. And it really doesn't take that long. So here we go. That's the burr established across the back of that blade. Now, I just have to work my way down through the grits, and that's that blade razor sharp, ready to go. So again, find the primary bevel, let it sit there, it's nice and solid. Support your hand with your other hand. It all kind of comes from the shoulders. You're not moving your body in and out. Again, I don't want this to turn into a full sharpening video, but these points are important. Tilt it up slightly, and just in a circular motion, just like that. Now, I'm going to work all the way down through the grits, get this thing razor sharp, and I'll give you a quick look. Okay guys, so that's what we should be left with. So you can see that highly polished edge all the way across the front of it. Now, that's just a case of practice. It's not magic, it's not camera trickery. I didn't put this in a honing guide or anything like that. You can absolutely get a perfectly consistent bevel on your blade by hand sharpening. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It's just a case of developing just a bit of muscle memory and some practice, and you can really hone an edge just like that. It took 5 minutes. It'll take me 2 minutes to put an edge back on this every time I want to sharpen it, and I'm not messing around with a honing guide. So there you go. Let's get this back in the spoke shave and take some shavings. Okay, so like I said, we are all sharp. I'll just give you a quick demonstration of just how razor sharp that is. Yeah, that's pretty scalpel sharp. So you can do that by hand, and like I said, these small blades, that is absolutely the best way to do it. Now, again, just to set this back up and to answer Jim's question, hopefully this is going to help you out, my friend. It's just a case of do exactly what I did before. Take my spoke shave, rest it on my flat reference surface. Be very careful now when you're slotting in the blade. You don't want to damage any of your good work. Again, leave it sit nice and flat. Make sure my sole is sitting exactly where it needs to be. Again, if it's a curved sole, tilt it all the way forward because you're referencing the front of the mount. If it's the flat bottom sole, then let that sole sit flat on the material. Drop your blade in, and by tightening down that blade, clamping that down, it'll actually bring the blade out ever so slightly and allow you to take a shaving. So then it's just a case of just see how we're looking, and we're taking some wispy shavings there, and we're actually just about in the middle on this one, which is pretty nice. Okay, so we're taking some pretty nice shavings. Now the only other little thing I'll say in this video, and that is about the mouth of the spoke shave itself. As you can see, I have a pretty nice gap there. My blade is out right where I need it to be. It's taking a nice cut, and I still have a nice gap. Now, if your mouth is too closed up, you're going to start getting problems with the blade getting clogged up, and you won't be able to take shavings. So you might have to take a file and just open the mouth up slightly, making sure that you're staying square all the way across and that you dress it nice and properly. So that could be an issue. It's not a particular issue I have here. Again, it's kind of beyond the remit of this video, fettling a spoke shave. This is just a quick tip spoke shave video. So that's just something else to watch out for. So there you go. Right guys, so there we go. We're taking some nice wispy shavings. Our spoke shaves are working well. Now hopefully that helps you out, Jim, my friend, and hopefully that answers your question and it helps the rest of you guys out as well. If you're using these Quangseng lube and spoke shaves, or maybe the Line Nielsen versions of these, or any spoke shave for that matter, this principle will apply to all spoke shaves. Now, when it comes to woodworking, sharp is not sharp enough. Just keep that in mind. 99 times out of 100, when I see guys with problems with their planes and their spoke shaves, it's just a sharpening issue. If you have a razor sharp blade, well-honed blade, then that will take you most of the way there. And then it's a few little adjustment issues, just getting things right after that. But like I say, 99 times out of 100, it's getting that blade sharp. So get practicing, get a good system, something you're comfortable with, something that's repeatable for you, and that's quick and that's easy, so you don't mind sharpening your blades. Keep them sharp, that'll keep you woodworking, and it keeps the pain of woodworking away, especially with hand tools. So that's it guys, hopefully you've enjoyed that, hopefully that answers your question, Jim. Now get in the comment section below guys if there's anything you want to know, any questions you have about any tools. If you think I can help you out, then don't hesitate to ask, and I'll do my best to get a video straight out specifically for you. So that's it guys, I'm going to get out of here now. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you've liked it, and get in the comment section like I said. Thanks to everybody over on Patreon who continue to support the channel. It's very much appreciated as always guys. I'm going to get out of here now, so till the next video, take it easy.